So Ambassador Wizner, thank you very much for sharing your time with me today.
Thank you, Iver. That's an honor to be with you.
Today, Kosovo celebrates the 15th anniversary of its independence. You were part of the international troika of additional talks in 2007, which preceded the process of declaration of Kosovo's independence. It was then supervised independence. 15 years later, how did you see this process?
Well, not to burden you with facts, but I in fact joined the negotiations in 2005 as the representative of the American Secretary of State to President Martti Ahtisaari's very detailed and careful negotiation of the final status terms. When that was not accepted by the Serbian government, the G7, G8 agreed to extend the negotiation, create a troika, and the story begins as you set the stage. So 15 years, and I am pleased and displeased at the same time. Pleased for Kosovo and sorry that more hasn't been accomplished for Kosovo. I would have hoped by the 15th anniversary, Kosovo would be fully accepted by the international community, that it would have normalized relations with Serbia, and that its economy would be more robust and more participatory in the European economic system. While some of the objectives or some of my hopes for the time have been achieved, they've also not been fully achieved. And so the task before us continues to achieve full-scale recognition, peace, and prosperity for Kosovo. That's a task still in front of us.
But Ambassador Wizner, neither the comprehensive plan of President Ahtisaari, not even the positions of the Troika at the end of the process, did not align the positions of parties. So Serbia came out against every proposal. Was it not clear then that Serbia and Russia will not accept the proposal?
It was unfortunately clear, and that made it also clear to us and to the Europeans that the time had come to bring an end to the exceptional state under which Kosovo had been living over much of the previous decade and allow or encourage, bless the independence, the declaration of independence of Kosovo. It's in the face of Russian-Serbian opposition that the decision to proceed ahead with independence was taken, but with the very clear understanding it was not acceptable to either Serbia nor to Russia.
Ambassador, when I mentioned Russia, Ambassador, the current Russian ambassador to Serbia, Botsan Karchenko, was part of the Troika. If you can say, why didn't you have the opportunity to put pressure on Russia to accept the Ahtisaari proposal for the future of Kosovo?
Well, I can assure you that every effort was made to convince the Russians that this was the right outcome. It was the inevitable outcome. And the same powers of persuasion on the part of the Europeans and ourselves was directed at Prime Minister Kostunica of Serbia. But neither side, the Serbs nor the Russians, were prepared to concede their position. And I think principally the Russians, who had a much smaller stake in the matter, were prepared to follow the Serbian example. So it is Serbia's obduracy that led to Russia standing by Serbia.
But today, we are 15 years later. The problems are almost similar. The dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia has been going on for a decade. Aren't we back at the beginning of the problem again?
No, we're not. First of all, Kosovo has had 15 years to establish itself as an independent nation, to build its institutions, show its robust democratic system. It has changed governments by election. It has shown that it is capable of living as a sovereign, independent, and respectable nation. That's a huge accomplishment. Second, Kosovo has established institutions, its judiciary, its security institutions, its economic institutions. These are also huge accomplishments. What has not been achieved is an understanding with Serbia. And we always knew that that was going to be difficult, given the strength of Serbia's feelings and of its leaders, that Kosovo should, and would remain part of Serbia. A point of view, obviously, that we did not accept. So no progress has been made with Belgrade, but that's not to say the 15 years have been ill spent.
Has anything been achieved in the northern part of Kosovo within these 15 years? We have seen the problems every year and every period of time. So again, we are seeing the problems in the northern part of Kosovo.
You have to look at the whole picture. Kosovo's independence has achieved substantial benefits for the people of Kosovo already, not complete by any means. And the quest for an understanding with Serbia continues. That's why I believe the initiative recently referred to on the part of the Germans and the French offers a potential way forward, not to finally settle the matter with Serbia, but to create a space within which Kosovo and Serbia can live, cooperate, without having to take the final step of recognizing the sovereign independence of Kosovo, a fact that the United States, obviously, and the Europeans agree to, but the Serbs do not.
But it's a hesitation in Belgrade and in Pristina over this proposal, German-French proposal on the normalization of the relations between both parties. So you see it as a good example to move forward, or you see it something that is similar to the agreement of 2013 on the normalization of Kosovo-Serbia relation?
No, I see it as well beyond that, because this time the Europeans are fully involved. There is international precedent for the ideas that I believe are on the table. I've not seen a final draft of what the French-German proposal is, so I don't want to be definitive. But on the rough model, let me underscore, approximate model of the old German approach, where each party agrees to live and let live with the other party, to expand trade, to expand cross-border movement, not to interfere with each other's foreign policy aspirations, to be able to proceed to join Europe. All these steps are possible under what I think is the German-French idea.
But why should we now trust to Belgrade that it would somehow recognize or accept this proposal when it did not do that in 2008, for example?
Well, the idea behind the German-French proposal, if I understand it correctly, was not on the table in 2008. It was informally discussed, but at that time, the Serbs and the Russians were not prepared to look at it. Now you have a chance, perhaps, to have it looked at again. We don't know for sure. As again, I say, it hasn't been put on the table formally yet and fleshed out. But this way, the advantage of the German-French proposal, as I understand it, is that neither side concedes a vital point of principle. Serbia does not agree to Kosovo's independence, and Kosovo asserts its independence. Both sides agree not to agree, but to move on and develop more normal relationships, economic, cultural relations, and living in peace with one another, even though they disagree on this matter of principle.
The U.S.
It's a pragmatic next step, allowing time to elapse, further time to elapse, and perhaps one day to return to the issue of sovereignty.
But the United States is fully, let me say, engaged in this process right now. Let me ask you, the U.S. has sought compromises from the parties. What and how to read the compromise, especially in Pristina? What is the compromise?
Well, again, I am not part of the United States government's diplomatic activity. I laid down that task some years ago, so I can't speak specifically to what the United States is discussing, either with Pristina or with Belgrade. But as a general matter, I can assume from knowledge of the situation that the United States would like to see something like a French-German proposal installed, for it would permit a calming of tensions between Kosovo and Serbia. It would permit, a degree of normalization. Even if the issue of sovereignty is not settled, it would permit a development economically of the region, and it would open the door, the deeper integration of the region into the Western community and into the European Union. So it enjoys broad American support, even if I can't comment on the details.
Ambassador Wizner, the hottest issue for Kosovo remains the association of municipalities with a Serb majority. Could this be an obstacle to reaching an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia?
Of course, anything can be an obstacle to reaching an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia on either side. We've seen tensions mount over license plates, and so why not disagreement existing over the Association of Serb Municipalities. I've also seen almost all disagreements of this sort come into an agreement with careful negotiation, persistent negotiation, addressing each party's concerns. And so I can only hope that Kosovo's reservations about the association can be overcome by Kosovo putting its conditions on the table and the negotiators trying to find compromise grounds.
And how to reconcile irreconcilable positions. Belgrade wants...
I don't believe that. I think that's the wrong conclusion. There are no irreconcilable conclusions. There are conclusions that are difficult to reconcile, but that doesn't mean they're irreconcilable.
And Ambassador, let me ask you, in this 15th anniversary of Kosovo's independence, do we see any signs for reconciliation in the Balkans, and especially when it comes to the relations between Kosovo and Serbia?
Yes and no. Yes, over these past 15 years, there's been substantial movement in the Balkans. Tensions between Bulgaria and Macedonia have largely abated. Macedonia and Greece have reached their own outcomes. Montenegro successfully separated from Serbia and established itself. The situation remains unsatisfactory between Kosovo and Serbia. It remains unsatisfactory between the Republika Srpska and Bosnia. So yes, there's been progress, and no, there hasn't been enough progress.
Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for joining me today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me on your show, and best wishes to all the people of Kosovo on this landmark moment, 15 years of independence, something never 20 years ago I could not have imagined, but I join you in celebrating it today.
Thank you very much indeed, sir.